Lonely lumberjack pays 2 for mysterious woman at auction. She shocks him with her name. The town of Pine Hollow had never seen anything like it. A dusty log cabin set the scene for an outrageous auction, where a lonely lumberjack, heart heavy with solitude, stood ready to change his life with just $2. $2. It was the price of a soda, yet here he was, thinking maybe, just maybe, he could buy companionship. The air crackled with a strange excitement as townsfolk gathered, whispering and chuckling, their eyes glinting with mischief. The wooden stage creaked beneath the weight of anticipation. A shroud of mystery hung over the auctioneer, a wild man with a beard that looked like it had been through a storm. He claimed to have something special, a woman who could break the mundane cycle of life in Pine Hollow. As he called out for bids, a hush fell over the crowd. The lumberjack's heart thundered in his chest, an electric thrill pulling him forward. Who was this woman? What made her worth the attention of the whole town? When she finally stepped onto the stage, everyone gasped. She was unlike anyone there, with raven dark hair cascading like a waterfall and eyes that sparkled with untold stories. But there was something haunting about her smile, a flicker of a secret just below the surface. The lumberjack raised his hand instinctively as laughter faded to silence. $2, what did it mean in a world filled with questions? Then, she looked straight at him. You don't know my name, do you? She asked, her voice a melody that sent chills down his spine. An eerie yet thrilling question hung in the air. The crowd murmured, curiosity sparkling in their eyes. He felt a weight in his throat, a lump of confusion and urgency, as if this moment was destined. Just then, a voice broke the stunned silence. What is her name? A ripple of tension coursed through the crowd, their faces strained with anticipation. Whatever her name was, it had the power to change everything. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The auctioneer smirked, relishing the drama. Her name is, well, that S for him to find out, isn't it? Gasps and laughter mingled, but beneath it lay an undercurrent of something deeper, a suspense, a fear. Was she an enchantress or a siren? The lumberjack's fingers trembled at the thought. His heart raced. What if her name spelled trouble? But what if it spelled adventure? As her gaze pierced through the crowd, he felt the pull of destiny. Would he take the leap, pay those $2, and discover the mysteries tucked inside her name? The room buzzed with uncertainty, and he could swear he heard the whispers of fate urging him to decide. Would he dare to step into the unknown? The lumberjack's hand hovered in the air, trembling with both anxiety and yearning. $2 felt like a mountain of money, and yet so trivial compared to what roared inside him. Something primal sang in his heart, drawing him closer to the woman on stage, whose eyes glimmered with secrets that beckoned him. Suddenly, the crowd burst into laughter, snapping him from his reverie. Come on, make it 3. One man yelled, a devilish grin splitting his face. The bid was a joke, a mockery of the lumberjack's interest, but it struck like an arrow. That slight chuckle, that teasing tone, it threw him off balance. He felt the weight of every pair of eyes now staring at him, waiting. The stakes had shifted. This wasn't just about companionship anymore. It was about pride, about reclaiming his manhood in front of a crowd that barely saw him. No. Her voice cut through, sharp and strong. The laughter dimmed. I don't want to be an object of ridicule. Her eyes caught his again, the weight of her words heavy. I am no one's joke. He swallowed hard, compelled to act. I'll pay $2, he shouted, his voice echoing out into the stunned silence. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd as he pulled out a crumpled bill, half expecting laughter, but only found a somber stillness. The auctioneer blinked, his surprise morphing quickly into a sly grin. "Sold!" he exclaimed, slamming his gavel down with a flourish. In that moment, the lumberjack felt lightheaded, as if he'd just jumped off a cliff, not knowing where he might land. The woman stepped down from the stage, a curious smirk playing on her lips. The crowd parted, leaving him standing there, isolated in a whirlpool of public scrutiny but also glee. He caught a glimpse of her, moving gracefully, her raven hair trailing like smoke. "What's your name?" he dared to ask, unable to let the moment pass unacknowledged. He needed to know her identity, every fiber of his being screamed for this knowledge. "Names are tricky things," she replied, her voice almost a whisper as they walked toward the edge of the dim light cast by the cabin's lanterns. "Call me Elise, for now." "Just for now?" His brow furrowed, he didn't understand. "Everything comes with a price, lumberjack," she shot back, a flash of amusement in her eyes. "Names, choices, decisions. It's all part of the game." A shiver of unease crawled up his spine. What game was she talking about? This wasn't the whimsical adventure he had hoped for. He could sense the danger, yet oddly enough, it excited him even more. "Do you know what you're getting into?" she added, her tone shifting, her captivating smile fading. "The woodlands here hold secrets, dark ones. And trust me, once you know me, there will be no turning back." His courage wavered for a moment. Was the thrill worth the risk? Could he handle what lurked beneath her surface? "You need to understand, Elise. If I'm going to take this leap, I need to know everything." A pause, electric and thick, hung between them. The townsfolk behind him murmured in anticipation, unaware of the tension brewing under the surface. "Everything?" she reiterated, an enigmatic glow lighting her eyes. "It might just change you forever, lumberjack. Are you ready for that?" He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. Adventure, danger, or disaster, it was all coiling together in a deadly dance, but before he could answer, something in the distance erupted, a piercing scream that shattered the moment, echoing through the trees. What was that? The laughter from the crowd died as murmurs turned into panicked whispers. Elise's expression darkened, her playful demeanor cracking like glass. "I think," she paused, her voice barely above a whisper, "it's time for you to choose your path." The shadowy tree lean loomed like a secret keeper, and with a sense of foreboding, he felt the ground shift beneath him. What had he gotten himself into? The scream echoed again, and with it, the weight of fear settled in. Would uncovering her name lead to revelation or calamity? With a heart full of questions, he realized that the real adventure had only just begun. Would he dare to venture deeper? The lumberjack's heart raced, each beat a thunderous reminder of the choice stretching out before him, as unyielding as the trees surrounding the clearing. The crowd's laughter had faded, replaced by a gnawing unease. He could feel their eyes, a collective weight probing at his resolve. What was that scream? He asked her, desperate for clarity. Elise's gaze flickered toward the forest, her playful demeanor eroding, replaced with what looked like genuine fear. "It's not safe here, not tonight." Before he could question her further, a commotion erupted at the edge of the crowd. A burly man shoved his way forward, pale as the moonlight that glinted off the crowd's curious faces. "It's Miss Lila. Someone's taken her." The murmurs erupted into a tempest of panic. A frantic energy pulled at the lumberjack, igniting a need to do something. He hadn't paid $2 just to stand by. "Who's Miss Lila?" he asked, trying to latch on to any thread of information to anchor his racing thoughts. "The healer," a woman shouted back, her voice rising above the chaos. "She lives on the outskirts, and if anyone can help, it's her." Elise's expression twisted, fear, anticipation, something deeper buried beneath. "She was supposed to guide me, she was my only ally in this cursed place. Before the lumberjack could ask what she meant, she grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the edge of the crowd. "We need to go. Now." He hesitated for just a moment, feeling the pulse of terror running through the townspeople. But whatever forces had drawn him toward Elise, they were stronger than the uncertainty that gripped him like a vice. "Let us find her," he said, determination hardening his resolve. As they vaulted over fallen logs and ducked under low-hanging branches, the woods around them darkened, the forest thick with secrets. The distant echoes of the townsfolk faded into a muffled drone, their frantic cries lost to the whispering wind. "What do we do when we find her?" he asked, struggling to keep pace with Elise, her lithe movements seeming almost otherworldly. "We'll need to confront the darkness that surrounds her," she replied, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath it. "I'll show you, but you have to trust me." Trust. What did that even mean in a place like this? 1,000 doubts flickered through the lumberjack's mind, but he pressed on, her presence a beacon to guide him through the shadows. They arrived at the clearing where Miss Lila was rumored to reside, a small, dilapidated cabin swallowed by wild vines. Silence reigned, a silence so profound that it felt like a harbinger of violence. Elise stood still, peering into the darkness surrounding the cabin, her breath shaky. "This is it," she whispered, the weight of her words hanging between them like a fracture. "Whatever happened to her, it's connected to me, and now you too." "Connected? How?" The lumberjack felt a lump form in his throat, equal parts confusion and fear. "Because of the name," she murmured, her eyes locking onto his. "With every truth uncovered, something sinister lurks beneath. It may demand a sacrifice, possibly yours." A sound erupted from the cabin, something indecipherable, desperate. The urgency of the moment collided with the primal fear creeping in, and he stepped forward, ready to take action. "We can't just stand here." With that, the cabin door swung open, revealing a dark figure silhouetted against the candlelight. "Help me," came a hoarse whisper, barely a breath against the wind. Every instinct screamed for him to run, but it was too late. The door loomed wide, an abyss they both now had to stare into. "What you see next will test everything, lumberjack," Elise said, stepping closer, unease etched on her face. The air thickened, feeling electric. He gripped her arm tighter, his heart pounding as the figure took a step forward, shadow swallowing whatever shape it held. Something was about to break. Would he be ready for the consequences that followed? And then came that whisper again, pleading, "Please help me." What lay ahead was shrouded in darkness, and the lumberjack realized there was no turning back. The moment stretched like elastic, both exhilarating and terrifying. The figure staggered into view, and the lumberjack's breath caught in his chest. It was a woman, her face shadowed but her eyes glinting with a wild intensity that spoke of horror and hope in equal measure. "Please, you have to help them." "Who?" The word slipped from his lips, taut as a drawn wire. "Miss Lila. They've taken her." Her voice cracked with a delicate fragility, as if speaking too loudly would shatter the thin veneer of sanity that hung between them. Panic now surged through the lumberjack. "Who took her?" Before she could answer, a rustling erupted from the thicket behind the cabin, grating like metal dragged across stone. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled, the dread coiling tighter around him. Elise's grip on his arm tightened, and he could feel her trembling beside him. "It's the shadows," she breathed, her voice barely more than a whisper. "They're restless." "Shadows? What are you?" His question evaporated as a dark shape lurched from the forest, breaking free from the trees like a creature born of nightmares. It was just a silhouette, but even in the dim light, he could see it was not human. The lumberjack's instincts screamed at him to flee, but something rooted him in place. "Stay close," Elise said, her voice gaining strength. "We have to confront it. It may know where Lila is." "Yes, but what if it doesn't?" Doubt clung to his words, a bitter taste in his mouth. "What if it takes us instead?" "Then we fight together," she declared, determination igniting her features. She took a step forward, urging him to follow. The darkness before them swirled, almost alive, and the lumberjack's heart thudded like a jackhammer. The figure stood still, as if gauging their resolve. "Come no closer," it hissed. A voice that twisted, like smoke curling around a flame. "Where is Miss Lila?" Elise stepped forward, her expression fierce. "You must tell us." The dark creature simply laughed, a sound that sent chills racing down the lumberjack's spine. "You think you can demand answers? You don't understand what you're asking, girl. You're playing with forces better left untouched." A heavy silence enveloped them, thick and suffocating. The lumberjack shared a glance with Elise, his heart pounding in his chest as their fates hung in the balance. Every instinct in him urged retreat, yet he felt tethered to her unwavering gaze. "She's done nothing to you," he shouted suddenly, his fear twisting into anger. "Let her go." The creature's laughter cut deeper. "Oh, but that's where you're wrong. She's part of this, a vital piece of a dark puzzle. We all are." "What do you mean?" Elise demanded, her voice brimming with both defiance and fear, but the creature only stepped further into the light, revealing hollow, sunken eyes that seemed to drink in the very essence of light. "You all run from the truth, but you're bound to it. It's time to face what you fear." The tension electrified the air. The lumberjack felt every muscle tense beneath his skin, readying himself for flight or fight. What was this truth? "Run, lumberjack!" Elise suddenly shouted, a fierce urgency behind her words. "We don't have time." Before he could respond, the creature lunged, its limbs stretching impossibly long as it sought to ensnare them in its darkness. "Together!" Elise screamed, and they dashed to the side, just as a wave of darkness rushed past them. The air thickened with the scent of fear, and suddenly everything was a blur. Pounding footsteps. Heart racing. The forest consumed them as they tried to break free. Branches clawed at them, arms of the shadows reaching out, desperate to take their toll. "Where do we go?" he gasped, adrenaline pumping through him like wildfire. "Follow the light," Elise urged, pointing toward a glimmer breaking through the trees ahead, a flicker of hope amidst the gloom. Was it a mirage, or a way out? They sprinted toward it, terror and urgency propelling them forward. But behind them, the shrieks from the creature pierced the night like a wounded spirit, a haunting promise that the shadows weren't done with them yet. Could they escape the darkness? With every stride, the question echoed in his mind, as the light grew nearer, teetering between salvation and despair. And as they plunged deeper into the wild unknown, the lumberjack's heart raced with a singular thought: they had to reach that light before it was too late. But what awaited them on the other side? Secrets long buried, or an end to their perilous chase? Time was running out. They crashed through the brush, the undergrowth tearing at their clothes as they pursued the flicker of light. The lumberjack's breaths came fast and ragged, each one a desperate plea for more strength. Elise was ahead, her silhouette slicing through the shadows, her determination a beacon he clung to. "Keep moving," she yelled, casting a glance over her shoulder. He could see the fear etched in her face, but it fueled his resolve instead of slowing him down. The light flickered in and out, beckoning them like a flame in the dark. But the shadows weren't far behind, twisting and writhing like angry snakes. He felt their cold, clammy presence at his back, gnawing at his courage. "Don't look back," he shouted, forcing himself to focus on Elise and the shimmering exit ahead. The claws of the darkness seemed to reach out, just out of sight, desperate to snatch them back, but they pushed forward. Almost there. Elise's voice trembled with a mix of hope and fear. A massive tree loomed between them and the light, and without hesitating, she dove around it, continuing straight for the glow. The lumberjack followed, adrenaline pumping through his veins, his heart racing as they weaved among the trees. Just as they neared the light, an inhuman howl erupted from the creature behind them, a sound so raw and primal it rattled his bones. "Go!" he urged, shoving forward as they broke through the final line of trees. Instead of open ground, they stumbled into a clearing lit by dozens of swaying lanterns. Their golden light was warm and inviting, illuminating a worn-out path that twisted like a ribbon through the dark woods. But the comfort was short-lived. "That's not just any light," Elise whispered, her breath catching. Before them stood an ancient stone well, overgrown with vines, its stones worn smooth by decades of secrets. The lanterns flickered with urgency, casting dancing shadows that played tricks on the mind. But just as they caught their breath, the howls from behind intensified, as if the shadows were closing in for the final strike. "What now?" The lumberjack's voice was low, fear creeping in. "We have to throw something into the well," she said, eyes wide with realization. "It's a sacrifice, a way to save Lila and ourselves." His heart dropped. "What about us? What do we throw?" "The shadows, they want something. That's why they're after Lila." "She's connected to whatever this is," Elise explained, gesturing at the well. "Think. What do we have?" He could feel the pressure mounting, the sense of urgency suffocating him. His trembling fingers touched the axe strapped to his belt, it felt heavy against his side. He knew it was a tool of survival, yet here it felt like a weight of responsibility and perhaps a weapon against a darkness that craved not just physical offerings, but something deeper. "Take it," Elise urged, her voice sharp with panic. "It has to be a piece of ourselves." Torn between practicality and desperation, he hesitated. The weight of his axe felt like his own heart, full of fear and sorrow. But then, from the edge of the clearing, shadows began creeping closer, fingers of darkness curling and grasping greedily towards the glow of the well. "Now!" she shouted, urgency mingling with dread. That he stepped close to the well, the lantern light illuminating Elise's face, drawing strength from her fierce resolve. Wielding his axe, with a gut-wrenching cry, he swung it down, the metallic clang echoing through the clearing as the head of the axe struck hard against the stones of the well. But in the chaos, he felt a deep instinct push against him. What if this wasn't the answer? What if sacrificing his axe meant losing a part of himself forever? "Hold on!" he shouted, but as the echo faded, it was too late. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled as darkness swirled, rising from the well in a monstrous eruption that pulled at everything around them. "Run back!" Elise yelled, but the shadows surged, swallowing the clearing in a blanket of despair. Desperation ignited something fierce inside him. "Wait! We have to know the truth." The shadows coiled tighter, and he could feel their chilling presence scraping against his skin. But Elise wasn't afraid. She stepped forward and looked into the well, her expression shifting from fear to fierce determination. "What do we face down there?" she breathed, a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. Their fates entwined at that moment, ready for whatever lay ahead. As the darkness encircled them, one question hung heavy in the air: what price would they pay for the truth, and were they truly prepared for the answer? The land beneath them roared, and the well trembled again, like a heartbeat alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. The shadows surged, swallowing the clearing whole. A gut-wrenching scream echoed as Elise flinched, pulling back from the well. "What if the truth is worse?" she whispered, a tremor in her voice. The well seemed to pulse, drawing them closer. The darkness thickened around them, a living thing that craved their fear. His heart thundered, it felt like the drums of war. "We can't turn back now," he urged, his voice steady despite the dread clawing at his insides. Elise nodded, the light from the lanterns reflecting determination in her eyes. "We have to face it together." She stepped forward once more, fearless. He moved beside her, anchoring their resolve with the spark of her courage. With a trembling breath, they peered into the mouth of the well. The darkness churned, swirling like a storm, yet within its depths, a pair of glowing eyes emerged. They were fierce and haunting. An otherworldly presence pulled at the edges of their minds, whispering secrets filled with dread. "What are you?" Elise called, her voice echoing against the stone walls. It felt like an invocation, summoning whatever power lay beneath. Something lost, the voice resonated, murmuring like wind through the trees. Something forgotten. The shadows thickened, hissing with discontent. The lumberjack felt the weight of the past press down on him, suffocating. "You're connected to Lila, aren't you?" He yelled into the void, hoping for clarity amidst the chaos. A chilling laugh rang out from the well. "She is but a pawn in my game, just as you are, or perhaps, you are the players." The shadows roiled around him, and for a moment, he could see flickers images hauntingly familiar, laughter, a young child, a lingering warmth. "Lila!" he shouted, desperation riding his voice. "Where is she?" "Sacrifice isn't merely about what you offer," the voice retorted. "It's about what you value most. Are you prepared to lose it?" Panic surged through him like wildfire. What did he truly treasure? His freedom? His life? Elise's safety? "Elise," he barely whispered, fear sinking its claws into his chest. What if this is all a trap? She looked at him, her eyes glistening with determination and sorrow. "Then we fight. Together." Suddenly, the ground shook violently as shadowy tendrils reached out, brushing against them like icy fingers. The lanterns flickered rapidly, illuminating fleeting glances of twisted faces, their mouths gaping open in silent screams. He felt the chill seep into his bones. The air grew thick with despair, narrowing their world to that single moment, facing the depths of the well. "Look closer," she urged. Steeling himself, he stepped forward, peering into the abyss. He could see vague shapes forming, a reflection of dreams and nightmares intertwined. With every heartbeat, the tension mounted, a web of uncertainty wrapping around them. "What will you sacrifice?" the voice implored, mocking yet inviting, calling them deeper into its grasp. Elise reached for his hand, fierce and unwavering. "We can't let it take her. We have to protect Lila." For a heartbeat, he thought of his axe, the very symbol of his identity as a lumberjack. In a moment of crippling doubt, he felt its weight against his side. Could it truly be worth trading for something as intangible as love and hope? Before he could deliberate further, the lanterns blazed brighter as the shadows recoiled, the edges of the clearing swirling back with raw fury. "Foolish mortals," the voice crooned, "you will make your choice, and I will be watching." With a dreadful rumble, the well began to twist, the very air igniting with an unsettling hum. The moment hung heavy as the darkness roiled once more, hungry for a feed, craving their fears and doubts. What lay beneath the surface? Would they plunge into the unknown or turn back to face the evil that pursued them? Each breath felt significant, a fragile decision hanging over their heads, and then, a glimmer appeared at the bottom of the well, a fragment of hope or despair. "Hold on," Elise called, stepping closer, "we'll find her together." But as they leaned in, the shadows surged anew, and a terrifying thought broke over him like ice water. Was this darkness truly waiting for them to pay the price, or was it only the beginning of something far more sinister? The glimmer at the bottom seemed to pulse with life, casting flickering reflections that danced against the well's stone walls. Each pulse echoed like a heartbeat, syncing with his rising dread. He glanced at Elise, her determination unyielding, yet he could see the uncertainty lurking behind her fierce gaze. "Do you see that?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "What is it?" "I don't know," she breathed, still focused on the well's depths. "But we have to find out." Through a shared sense of urgency, they stepped closer, the weight of their choices pressing down on them. The shadows twisted violently, as if warning them to retreat. "Turn back, you do not belong," the voice hissed, its whispers melding with the wind. "The price is steep." Almost instinctively, he tightened his grip on Elise's hand. "We're not afraid of prices or shadows," he shot back, defiance igniting a spark within. "Curious courage," the voice mocked with a sinister chuckle, causing their skin to crawl. The shadows shifted again, revealing more images, snippets of lives once lived, moments torn from time. Lila's laughter echoed, a ghostly sound that pulled at the edges of his sanity. "Lila!" he shouted, desperation flooding his tone. "We're coming for you." But the darkness only swirled faster. "You cannot grasp what you do not understand," it taunted, echoing the lumberjack's own fears back at him. Sacrifice demands more than mere bravery, it demands a pound of flesh suddenly. Tendrils of shadow lashed out, wrapping around his legs like cold steel coils, threatening to drag him beneath the surface of the well. Panic surged in his chest, and with a feral roar, he yanked his leg free, but not without a gust of icy dread following. "Elise!" he gasped, struggling against the malevolent force. "We can't let it take us." She remained unyielding, hurling her resolve at the shadows. "We make our own choices. We choose to fight." Her eyes blazed with defiance, an ember in the suffocating darkness. The well answered with a deafening roar, unleashing a wave of shadows that enveloped them completely. Their lanterns flickered, barely holding back the encroaching void as they clung to each other, hearts racing. "Can you hold on?" he asked, straining against the tendrils that still sought to claim him. "Always," she replied fiercely. "But we have to act now." Summoning all his strength, he raised his axe high, the metal glinting dully. "If it demands a price, let us offer a trade. Together." Elise shouted, echoing his resolve as she mirrored the action, holding her lantern high. With a roar of valor, they swung their combined power toward the well, unleashing a burst of light against the darkness. The shadows squealed in protest, recoiling as the light cleaved through the blackness. For a moment, hope ignited in his chest. Then, abruptly, the malevolent voice surged back, infuriated. "This is but a game, children. Your light cannot conceal the truth. What awaits you below is far worse than you can imagine." As the flickering shadow retreated, revealing a wider view of the well's depths, an even darker truth loomed within the glimmer, a silhouette. A figure formed slowly beneath the swirling shadows, unmistakably familiar. He gasped, the air leaving his lungs. "Is that?" Elise grabbed his arm, eyes widened, as they both peered into the ghostly waters. The figure twisted, the features still obscured, but there was no mistaking the rising energy, the undeniable connection. "Whatever it is, we need to confront it," she proclaimed, stepping closer to the well's edge. "We have to risk it all." But before they could react, the shadows lunged again as if the well itself refused to let go of its secrets. He felt a powerful pull, a terrifying weight dragging at his very essence. "Fight! Fight, Elise!" he shouted as the darkness contorted, reshaping itself around them. The abyss whispered promises, the promises of despair and broken dreams. "Together," Elise urged, clenching his hand tightly. "No matter the truth we face." And as they braced themselves against the shadows, the ground trembled beneath them once more. The well surged and twisted with a growl, a roar of oppressive force tumbling upward, demanding attention, demanding sacrifice. The chilling voice echoed through the clearing, heavy with discontent. "The choice is yours. What secrets will you uncover?" And in that moment, they stood on the precipice of revelation, with the pulse of darkness closing in. What awaited them beneath the surface? What truth had been locked away, waiting to be revealed? Their breath quickened as the shadows pressed against them, swirling like a storm, hungry and insatiable. He tightened his grip on Elise, her fiery determination coursing through his veins like lightning. "Whatever it is, we can't back down now," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. The shadows writhed, hissing like vipers, but he stood his ground. Resolutely, Elise stepped closer to the well, her lantern shining brighter as if fueled by her defiance. "We need to find out who that is," she urged, her eyes filled with a resolve that made his heart race. Suddenly, a roar erupted from the depths, a spiraling cacophony that felt alive. It churned with energy, threatening to pull them into the well's insatiable maw. He could hardly breathe, the air felt thick, oppressive. "Stay close," he yelled, yanking Elise back as a shadow lunged upward, nearly grabbing her ankle. The darkness twisted around them like a living beast, foaming at the mouth, furious that they had disrupted its domain. "Look!" She pointed to the shimmering depths where the figure was now more distinct, the outline flickered with a faint light of its own, a woman cloaked in shadows. Her hair flowed like wisps of smoke and her eyes glimmered with an otherworldly glow. "Lila!" he cried, his heart thumping violently in his chest. Hope surged, spilling into his mind like sunlight breaking through clouds. That has to be her. The shadows hissed louder, vibrating around them with palpable anger. "You tread on sacred ground. Sacrifice to release your precious one," the voice taunted, sending chills down his spine. "No!" Elise shouted, vehemently swinging her lantern. "We will not give in to your demands." But the shadows responded with deafening howls, thrashing about them. He could feel the weight of despair in the air, heavy and suffocating. He glanced once more at the well, at the figure of Lila, her expression knotted in a blend of fear and longing. It drove him mad to see her trapped beneath the veil. "Lila!" he called again, swallowed by desperation. "Hold on. We're coming for you." For a fleeting instant, he thought he saw her smile, a flicker of hope that sparked in their shared memory. But then the darkness slammed down like a hammer, knocking the wind from his lungs. "Trade," the voice commanded, more an ultimatum than a suggestion. "One life for another, what will you give?" A sickening feeling twisted in his gut. What could he offer? Instinct whispered to him to bargain, but the shadows coiled tighter, promising what they demanded would be a loss too immense to bear. "What if we don't give anything?" Elise challenged, defiance echoing through the chaos. "What if we fight in another way?" The voice roared in laughter, sending tremors through the earth. "You think you can escape? The darkness shall always claim what belongs to it. Then let us show it how much we value our freedom." He shouted, lifting his axe high again. The glint of metal caught the lantern light, a beacon of their spirit clashing with the encroaching night. "That's right. Together." Elise echoed, her own weapon raised high. "We'll defy the darkness." The shadows hissed, boiling with rage, almost boiling over with fury at their victories. "Then you shall face the consequences." It howled, and in a deafening instant, the ground beneath them cracked, a chasm opening wide, adrenaline surged through him. "Unleash the light. Show it we won't bend." And as they struck the air with their weapons, a blinding flash erupted, momentarily illuminating their surroundings. The shadows recoiled, howling in anguish, revealing the twisted path before them, leading toward the depths of despair, but as the light flickered, Lila's silhouette vanished, leaving only the echo of her name in the whirlpool of darkness. "Lila!" he screamed, panic clawing at his heart. Elise yanked him back. "We have to go. We can't let this thing keep separating us." With one last determined look at the well, they turned and raced as the ground continued to tremble, the chasm narrowing and threatening to swallow them whole. And as they ran, the shadows whispered again, hinting at secrets too terrible to fathom. This instant over the truth will come for you. What awaited them beyond the threshold? What more was the darkness willing to unveil? They sprinted through the thickening fog, the howls of the shadows echoing in their ears. Each step felt heavy, like dragging chains behind them. He could still feel Lila's presence, a lingering warmth in the cold grip of despair. "Where do we go?" he shouted, desperate as the ruins of the well faded into the murky depths behind them. The ground trembled beneath their feet, like a beast waking from a deep slumber. Elise glanced back, her face pale but fierce. "We need to find higher ground. Maybe we can get a better view. We can't let them trap us again." Nodding, he pushed himself forward, struggling against the weight that seemed to cling to the darkness around them. Every second felt like a lifetime, their breaths labored and ragged as they ran deeper into the woods. The trees loomed like sentinels, their gnarled branches reaching out, as if trying to snag them, pulled them back from their escape. The shadows danced among the roots and brambles, teasing and taunting, their whispered threats trailing behind, but Elise moved with a determination that fueled him. "This way!" she yelled, veering left down a narrow path choked with underbrush. The lantern flickered in her hand, casting erratic beams of light that scattered the shadows momentarily. "I hate this place," he gasped, dodging a low-hanging branch. Why did we even come here? Elise turned to him, frantic but resolute. Because we can't leave Lila. We have to find a way to save her. She is our friend. The word struck hard, a reminder of their shared bond and what was at stake. But doubt clawed at him too. What if it was a trap? What if they only put themselves in greater danger? Another roar split the air, reverberating through the trees, shaking the very ground beneath them. Panic gripped him. They're coming. What do we do? Elise halted, her eyes wide with fear, but with a spark of something else, defiance. We fight. She declared. We confront whatever this is. We won't back down again. He could see it in her stance, the unyielding resolve. For a moment, the chaos fell away, cracking open a sliver of hope deep inside him. Suddenly, the ground beneath them quaked once more, and the roots erupted from the soil, snaking towards them like serpents. He barely had time to react as he shouted and swung his axe wildly, slicing through the encroaching tendrils. Elise! To the left! But she was already moving, dodging and cutting her way through. The shadows hissed, ever cautious, as if assessing their new threat. They could feel the dark energy pulsating around them, pressuring them, pushing them. What if we could lure them into the light? He suggested, breathless, catching his reflection in her determined gaze. We know they're afraid of it. Then let us create a path. The lantern. She thrust it toward him. Use it. They fear the brightness. Instinct ignited within him. He steadied his grip and turned toward the massing shadows, the lantern-esque glow bathing the area in warm golden light. The shadows recoiled visibly, shimmering as if burned. Come on. Elise urged, pulling him towards an opening in the trees. He followed her lead, bolstered by the light they created, their courage sparking like a flame that refused to be extinguished, but just as they thought they could break free, the shadows surged again, swirling faster, darker, more furious than before. You think light can save you? The voice boomed again, mocking them, dripping with malice that he felt a chill wrap around him. Then what will? He cried, his voice catching in his throat. That which you fear the most, the shadows whispered, a tremor surging through the air. Elise spun to him, her eyes wide. What does that even mean? But before he could answer, a pain shot through his chest, hollow and fierce. He stumbled back, gripping his heart. Shadows surged around him, cold and merciless, squeezing tighter. Stay with me. Please. Elise yelled, reaching for him, her voice breaking through the fading light. As darkness swirled closer, it all became clear he was losing his grip. Lila. There was something deeper, lurking in those shadows, and it wanted him. With fear tightening in his throat, he realized, what if the darkness was not just an enemy? What if it held the key to everything? Hold on. He shouted, forcing himself to push through the growing pressure around him. He had to fight no matter the cost, but what awaited him on the other side of this darkness? What truth lay in the shadows that could either bind them or set them free? The shadows twisted around them, suffocating and relentless, but the lumberjack's heart beat louder than the chaos. Keep fighting. He urged, his voice cutting through the gloom. We're not giving in. Elise struggled beside him, her determination reflecting fiercely in her eyes. No matter what they throw at us, we'll face it together. We can't let them tear us apart. With that, they pushed through the darkness, feeling the weight of fear press upon their shoulders. The air buzzed with a desperate energy, a call to confront the unknown. Just ahead, a flicker of light broke through the encroaching shadows. Is there a door? He gasped, desperation creeping into his voice. Somewhere to escape. Elise pointed. There. That light, it could lead us somewhere safe. They barreled forward, the light shimmering like a beacon through the murk. Shadows recoiled, their whispers turning agitated. The closer they got, the more the light pulsed with vigor, drawing them in like a moth to a flame. Stay focused. He shouted, forcing himself to run faster, feeling the darkness clawing at their heels. It's within reach. They burst through the clearing's edge, and in that instant, they were met with an unexpected sight: a vast, glimmering lake surrounded by towering trees draped in silver leaves. The landscape shimmered under the moonlight, a surreal beauty amidst the nightmare they'd just faced. What is this place?" Elise stammered, awe flickering in her voice. "I don't know, but it feels different," he replied, glancing over the serene water. A sudden calm washed over him, a brief respite from the chaos that had consumed them. But just as they took a breath, understanding sharp as daggers burst forth from the depths of the lake. "You think escaping the shadows is that easy?" The voice intoned, rich with menace and authority. "You cannot outrun your truths. Here, they will find you." From the lake's depths, shadows swirled and rose, forming shapes familiar yet distorted, recollections wrapped in a haze of pain. Figures danced on the surface, memories morphing into vivid nightmares. "Lila!" He gasped as a haunting representation of her emerged, eyes glistening with sorrow. "No. This can't be. Face us." The voice demanded, echoing through the night. "What do you fear most, Lumberjack?" The lumberjack's breath quickened as he stepped forward, drawn by a force he didn't understand. "I fear losing those I care about," he admitted, voice trembling. "I fear being powerless to save them." "Then accept it. Accept the shadows." The apparition scoffed. Elise pushed forward, her eyes fierce and blazing. "No. We can't give in. We refuse to let fear dictate our lives." "Then prove it," demanded the shadows, circling tighter. "What sacrifice will you make to set things right?" Without hesitation, he lifted his axe, taking a step toward the darkened lake. "I'll sacrifice my doubt. I'll choose courage, not despair." His voice rang out with a boldness he didn't know he possessed. "Together." Elise echoed, her fervor igniting the air. "We rise from the fear, we defy the shadows and claim our light." The weight of their combined resolve manifested, a barrier against the twisting darkness. He felt a release, a letting go of every fear that had once ensnared him. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in frustration. Suddenly, the water shimmered brightly, and one by one, tendrils of light began to emerge, intertwining against the darkness. For every ounce of courage they summoned, a weight was lifted from them and spilled into the lake, drawing forth a realization beyond mere survival. It transformed into something purer: connection, loyalty, and love. "I am not alone," he whispered, his heart echoing the truth. "We face this together." A pulse of light erupted from the lake, illuminating the entire clearing in a radiant glow. The shadows writhed in agony, dissolving into a mist that dissipated against the brilliance. The figure of Lila stepped forward, shimmering with hope. "You found me," she said, a smile blooming across her face. "We'll be together again, I promise," Elise affirmed, her heartbeat mingling with his. As the light enveloped them, a soothing calm washed over him. He had braved the abyss and emerged anew, bonds forged stronger by the shadows they had faced. In the aftermath, as dawn began to crest across the horizon, the darkness melted away, revealing a tranquil scene. The lake still shimmered, now a symbol of their victory, a testament to the choices they had made, and the truth they had faced together. "Where do we go from here?" he asked, the weight of their journey lingering in his chest. Lila stepped forward, her presence radiant. "Forward. Into the light." With a firm hold on Elise's hand, he took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of renewal swell within him. They stepped away, ready to embrace the day ahead, united by shadows, bound by love. But as the light painted the world anew, echoes of that dark voice lingered, whispering through the winds. "This isn't finished. Remember, the shadows will always remember." And with that, they moved on, into the dawn, their hearts entwined and brimming with hope. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how this saga ends. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.